replica. There's no
Never.
way. There's no way.
That's never going to happen.
Right. There's
never.
no way to do it.
And not only as an entertainer, but as a person, Michael was just magical, just in person. On a my times with him, they weren't publicized. This was him just on a day-to-day basis. And I can honestly say, even during those moments when the press wasn't there, when he wasn't trying to, be an image, he still had this thing about him that just, it was simply magical. And he made you love him. He was so lovable. And I'll never forget, like one of the things that stands out to me with him, I was the receptionist at his manager's office. So he would call in, ask for his manager, Sandy, and I would transfer him. And sometimes, I would transfer him, and he would call me back 10 minutes later and thank me for transferring him. Like, who does that? He'd be like, oh, thank you for transferring me 10 minutes ago. I really appreciate it. I'm like, Michael, that's my job. He's like, no, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. Wow. And then he would, take that opportunity to go into another conversation. But that's just not something that anybody does.
No.
But that was him. And I just wish people knew that side of him. And as much as I can say it, I will. That was truly him. That was him without the cameras. This was the nicest man you'll ever meet. The most thoughtful, and really, there's never going to be anyone like him again.
Wow. Listen, I agree. His birthday is on the 29th.
Yeah,
of
August 29th, Michael would have been 60.
3 days from today. So let's all, should we raise a glass to Michael?
Yeah, my pineapple juice. What do you have over there? Your Coke?
Coke Zero.
Coca-Cola. He's trying not to have sugar, and I'm trying to drink some fruit.
Happy birthday, Michael.
Another thing that was in the news recently.
Okay.
Well, not really in the news, but a song leaked online called Is This Scary?
Yes.
I posted it on my Facebook.
Is this scary, or was it This Is Family Time?
Oh, yeah. No, you're right.
It was called
Ted, you're right.
It's called This Is Family.
It's a family thing.
Family Thing. There you go. I listened to it.
You're right, Ted. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah, it was called Family Thing. And I never actually heard it before, but it really touched me, because this was the song that Michael called me and dictated to me back in like 1993. And I had never heard like a track for it. All I heard were his lyrics that he had called me to give me. So what happened was, one day in 1992, I was sitting at my desk, and I wrote about this in my book in more detail. And Michael calls, and he's like, who is this? And I said, it's Shana. And he said, hi, I just wrote a song. I'm wondering if I give you the lyrics, can you write them down for me and type them up and then get them to Sony somehow? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I'll give them to Sandy, and he can send them to Sony. Sandy was his manager, my boss, Sandy Gallen. And I said, but are you sure you want me to do it? Because, I was just the receptionist. I didn't take dictation. I was afraid to even deal with the clients at any sort of, intricate manner than just answering the calls and transferring them. And here Michael Jackson, their biggest client, is asking me to type up, his dictation that he's reading to me.
That's a pretty big job.
I was so nervous. I was like, Michael, are you sure you want me to? Because I thought he had gotten it wrong. He thought he was calling Sandy's assistant or something. So I said, are you sure you want me to do it?
I could sell these lyrics to DeBarge.
So he was like, no, I want you to do it. And no one else, if that's okay. No. I said, well, okay, sure. So he wanted me specifically to sit on the phone with him and, go over these lyrics with him. So And mind you, I'm at the front desk, so calls are always coming in constantly. So I was like, well, this is Michael. I'm going to forget about Dolly Parton that's calling on the other line, and who knows, like God might be calling on the other line, but who cares? I have Michael here. He wants me to do this thing for him, and I'm just going to have to ignore all those other calls coming in, and hopefully they'll understand, you know. So he starts, so I had to like scramble for a pen and a piece of paper, whatever was on my desk, and he waited for me while I did that, and I said, okay, I'm ready. So he starts reading these lyrics, and you know, this song, which was Family Thing, which was leaked this week, but that version wasn't leaked. It was just like the track and maybe some background vocals, and he starts reading me these lyrics, and you know, of course it wasn't like a normal dictation session. He would like, I don't know what he was doing, but
he was kind of singing and working it out.
He was, you know, he would like repeat things and repeat certain lines that were kind of, you know, it could be like a double entendre.
Oh my.
And then I would like write them down, and then I'd say, okay, I'm ready for the next line, Michael. And then
he wasn't just putting the moves on you? You sure he wasn't just trying to hypnotize you, some kind of?
You know, I do wonder what was going on, but
Deepak Chopra on the next level. I'm gonna do a mantra and put a mantra in your head.
Right. So, you know, so I'd be like, okay, I have that line, Michael, you can go to the next one. And then he'd just be quiet. And all I could hear was him breathing. And I was like,
I'm getting a completely different story from you than the story.
I didn't know what was going on. So I would have to, in my mind, I was thinking, should I say, did you hear me? I said I was ready for the next line.
I'm picturing him in a robe.
Oh, no.
Just kind of.
So he's like breathing and chewing gum. Like all I could hear was him chewing gum very loudly. And he just wasn't like listening to me, but saying like, okay, Michael, the next line, I'm ready. It was just you know, just that.
Maybe he's in his head, he's in a, you know, imaginative process. Maybe it's a process where he's trying to conjure, this song up.
I don't know what it was. I mean, the song I think was already written, which I'll get into after this. But I think at the same time he was like sort of like, I don't know, changing up lines and sort of like, you know, as he was saying them, it was, you know, he was bouncing it off of me.
Okay.
And and so when the song was over, he said, so I'd written all the words down. I thought, okay, I have this. This is great. And then when the song was over, he said, could you read it back to me, please? And I was like, oh my God.
So how long of a process was between the time he started and the time he asked you to read it back? How many minutes?
It was over 30 minutes. It probably was like close to an hour. I'll be generous and just say like over 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. So somebody
must have picked up your phone by then and said, listen.
One of our runners had like walked by, and I was like, can you take over this? Yeah, so I had switched the phone to like another extension.
Okay.
And I told Michael I was doing it. He understood.
You would have gotten fired if somebody didn't step in. She's just been gone for an hour.
They knew. I mean, it was Michael. They were like, we don't care if Jesus is calling. It's fine. You're getting this song from Michael. Because Michael had, before he launched into this dictation with me, he told me that Sony had been pressuring him to get this song to them.
Okay.
So he said, you know, Sony's been pressuring me to get this song. I've finally written it, and here it is. If you could, you know, write these down for me and get it to them, I would be so appreciative.
Okay.
So that's what that was about. So Sandy Gallen, his manager, was very happy to, you know, finally have this song from Michael. Because he had this short film already set up with Stephen King, that this song was supposed to be like the main song for, and it was supposed to be the theme song for Addams Family Values. So this was a big deal.
Okay.
So anyway, so he says, can you read it back to me, please? And I was so nervous. I was like, in my mind, I was thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna have to sit here and read this whole song with all these sort of, you know, suggestive lines back to Michael. And I was so innocent then. I was like 22, something like that, 22, 23. So I was like, oh, okay, well, here's my chance. You know, I have Michael as my audience. I'm gonna do it the best that I can. So I put on the sexiest voice I could ruffle up. And I said, okay. And so I started reading line for line, and I was like repeating the same lines that he had repeated, because he would repeat like 2 or 3 times over the more suggestive lines, and I did the same thing. And guess what? I brought those lyrics with me here today. This is my surprise. These are my original lyrics, and the original notebook paper that I wrote those lyrics on in 1992. So these are historic pieces of paper right here. This is from 1992.
All right, well, read some of it.
Let's see.
Can you read the? Can you do it in your sexy voice?
Let me see. Okay, here's one.
Go ahead.
Squeeze the trigger till I'm dead. The blood's running good and red, and the pain is quite enormous. Well, so I wouldn't be human if I laid here and ignored this, but I'm hard as nails.
Oh my.
So that was, yeah, so I had Michael, you know, saying these things to me on the phone, and I had to say those lines. And as you can see, it's like, it's, you know, 2 notebook papers of those kind of lyrics. Sorry. I keep hitting the microphone. Sorry if it keeps hitting.
Well,
So, you know, those things. And then I was like, oh, that's why he wanted me to do it and nobody else, you know, because we had, you know, prior to that, we were kind of like in like a flirty type of situation.
yeah, that was my next question. So in the timeline of your relationship, was this toward the beginning, the middle, or toward the end? Would you say?
It was the beginning, yeah.
Okay, so it was early on.
Yeah, I think I had just gotten back from Japan. I went over on tour with Michael for the Dangerous tour in Japan, and I think it was after that. And I don't even know if he if he knew that I was going to be in his short film for this particular song yet.
Okay.
Because after that happened is when that whole process started. You know, that, you know, he put me in Is This Scary,
Right.
which was the first version, and that one I think was it Stephen King or Mick Garris. They had come into the office one day and had a meeting with Michael, and somehow I finagled my way into getting into this short film. And I remember telling Michael, you know, I'm going to be in your short film, and he was like, oh, that's great. And so yeah, and that happened after this family thing incident. And then like 3 years later, we did Ghosts, which was sort of us finishing a family thing, but it was a whole different I don't know, not a different concept, but in this one, Michael was playing all of the characters. In the first one, we had an actor playing the mayor, which in Ghost, Michael played the mayor. So it was a different cast of kids. I was the only one that he brought back.
Right. And yeah, that's the one where he's dressed as he's got like a fat suit.
Right. It was a fat suit.
Cranky, fat white guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
go on for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. So I'll tell you guys this story. So in 1996, Michael called me and out of the blue, and he was like, you know, we're gonna do that short film that we did before, Is This Scary, and I'm wondering if you would like to be in it with me. And I was like, sure, you know, like who's gonna turn Michael down to be